Okay, folks, we'll make a start back. How many of you have been to a Moodle moot and seen one of these sort of Dr. Moodle sessions before? Hardly anybody. Okay. Dan has, a couple of people have. Okay, the idea is basically we have our expert panel. You've met them all before, apart from Marcus hasn't presented today so far. Aurelie, Sam, Marcus, Gavin. We have a range of expertise represented there, from pedagogy through to technical, through Moodle and Mahara partners, through people that work in HE, through people who work with schools. And I guess the idea, because we're trying to record a lot of this, is if we take questions from you, I'll try and repeat them or summarise them, simply so that we try and capture them a bit better on the recording. And I will try and keep my mouth closed, because I'm not very good at that when I'm stood up here, and let the experts do the talking. But we will make it a sort of interactive thing. So if anybody else on the floor has something to contribute to answering a question, if you've got your own experiences to share, then feel free, and I will do my best to summarise what anybody says, or try and make sure it's picked up on microphone or whatever, so that it gets caught on the recording. So over to you, really. Questions for the panel? Oh, it's going to be a short session. There's no one there. Catherine.
Online as possible in regards to their feedback. So at the moment, as exciting as it may be, all they do is upload their feedback marking grid against that assessment point, which is very exciting. The students have to download it to view it, and it's a bit of a pain when the lecturers come around to mark, because they have to do it offline. So what's your advice, or do you use a particular tool, or can you give us advice, I suppose, in regards to how we get like a feedback grid, I suppose, online in Moodle? It doesn't grade automatically, and I know there is a rubric on Moodle that does exist. But what we're finding is when they're selecting the different boundaries, Moodle is automatically grading them. And we don't want that to happen. We want them just to use it as a feedback term. I suppose, have you got any advice or where we can go?
Are you asking options for ungraded feedback similar to a rubric grid, but that doesn't do grades?
So it's a bit like Interneting, how you can turn it off, can't you? Yeah, automatically.
Are you talking about feedback for a specific assignment?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I've just been sitting next to you over there, furiously working on an advanced grading plugin for a client. Okay, that is the area where you could potentially do that. Okay. In fact, was that what we were talking to you about, Richard?
Yeah, Catherine's one of our learning technologists.
Got it. Yeah. Anyway, so since I was speaking to you, we've been dealing with somebody else. My history with advanced grading plugins, when I say advanced grading plugin, people normally think of Rubric. But Core Moodle ships with Rubric and another advanced grading plugin. And for about the last 5 years, I've been maintaining a thing called the BTEC grading plugin, which, as you can guess, does BTEC-style grading. And currently I'm working on a thing for a client called Pass-Fail Rubric. So this simplifies it so each criteria can be, this is in some ways the opposite of what you're looking for, because it's definitely grading it. You get a pass, fail, and then a refer. But it's not beyond the wit of a programmer like me or any other developer to do it in such a way that you don't do any grading at all. At least off the top of my head, I'm thinking, would the gradebook complain? Gradebook could just say, hasn't been graded, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's the key term there, is advanced grading plugin.
One suggestion, if it doesn't exist already, is to actually put a request for a small project for the Moodle User Association to have it developed, because that's a perfect example of something that can be changed in core by just having an option to grade or not grade.
Or, press the button, hey, technology. Blue? Yeah, there we go. So, you know Blue Peter? Here's one I prepared earlier. I didn't actually prepare it earlier. So the actual plugin type you're looking for is what's called an assignment feedback sub-plugin. So it's not a grading one. And there is actually one or two good examples of this. This is already one that's in the plugin database. It isn't exactly what you're looking for. It's about 70 to 80%, maybe even 85% of where you are. So download it, play with it, try it. I'm not going to... all right, go on. Definitely not. No. I'm sure Richard will. But what you can do is look at this and go, I'd like to do that, but I'd like to have this extra bit and pieces in it. So this is more like the marking guide one. It's a list of criteria that you can give sort of feedback against, but it's separate from grading. So you could actually do the equivalent of double rubric or double grading feedback. One feedback, and then using a rubric or whatever for the actual grading piece, which is what you're after, which D2L, Canvas and Blackboard all do, but Moodle doesn't. But it does with something like this. No, but it's where people are hearing about this, this non-graded rubric feedback. That's where it's coming from, so let's talk it out there. And I agree, this is exactly what the MUA is there for. A small, specific piece of functionality that could be added into core would be a great idea.
Looking on the plugins database, that's the one Gavin's just put up. Assigned feedback structured.
You don't know everything, nearly everything.
But Aurelie will tell us more about the MUA a little bit later. Catherine Algren will out, but that might be something that we need to speak to her to next replacement when he comes in about the university joining the MUA at a university level, but we can also all join it at an individual level, which Aurelie will do later.
Or just get one of the Moodle partners, Catalyst or whoever, to customize this one to be exactly what you want. You don't have to start from scratch.
Yeah. There you go. Next question.
You touched on it earlier, just briefly, when talking about issues around Mahara and the checkwork for plagiarism. I just wonder if anyone has good workarounds for not copying and pasting everything out of Mahara into something to send it in, perhaps something using real assignment, like this.
We did that.
We've been doing that for
So
years.
is there a text matching service available for Mahara, basically?
We can, I can share with you what we did at Cranfield. So, myself, Aurelie and Angelique, we supported huge group portfolios developed in Mahara, which had to go through Turnitin, regardless of whether or not it was, everything had to go through Turnitin. And the way that we got around that is to print the page as a PDF, so everything is there. One person per group, because everyone was in their groups in Moodle, submit it through Turnitin, and then it's marked. And that is it. But the thing is, the students also provided a secret URL. Well, we set up the secret URLs directly from Moodle into the e-portfolios. So the assessors are marking the live portfolio, but putting their feedback on the various sections in Moodle, in Turnitin. And that's the way we got around it. Press your button.
Just the once. Just once until it goes green. That's
Take your finger off.
Oh. Who here would agree that most plagiarism involves copying from Wikipedia?
No. Statistically, it's not.
Who here could guess I taught in FE? Naughty children.
So, there you go. I'm getting it wrong every time too. What I would do is I would look at having a push feature from within Mahara that basically, when it is submitted to a group, say, for assessment, that it then actually takes the content out, auto creates within a hidden course in Moodle the actual assignment for that group, then submits that content for the user, which would go through Urkund or whatever the institutional plagiarism system is, to get the feedback. And when it comes back, send back the percentage and the link to the report into Mahara. So I'll be creating 2 plugins, probably using some of the existing web services as well. Can't imagine it's a huge amount, probably, about 10K-ish? Pardon? So, and that's why I mentioned Urkund, because it's an alternative.
No, that's fine. Obviously, the ultimate thing would be to not have to use plagiarism check. And if we are building authentic assessments that's based on evidence and personal reflection, then it shouldn't have to be checked because it needs to be authentic. We've helped DCU developing something in that vein, and that's it's Creative Commons, actually. So if anybody wants a little package for staff on how to develop authentic assessment for portfolios, let Lisa know, Lisa Donaldson, and us, and we can point you in the right direction.
Also remember that e-portfolios aren't a equivalent of an essay, so it's, yeah.
It's not Word.
It's not Word.
Next question.
I think we all need a beer, and then the questions will start flowing. I don't think we covered that in the...
Mahoodle and Mahara, it's a mojito.
A mojito, yeah.
We are hitting issues of when exporting the e-portfolio. Basically, it's not the endpoint assessment organizations are saying they want it to be compatible with their web interface, so not extracting it as a HTML file so that they can see. So they're saying, can you just not download it as a PDF, which we can do, but it just loses its beauty. So I was just wondering whether you had any advice as to how we could really showcase the learners' portfolios in the best way possible, really, rather than just that kind of PDF, but overcoming that kind of that barrier that the endpoint assessment organization has to us. It is a different world.
I was hoping you'd solved that. That's why I was looking forward to Darren's talk to see how you've done that, because that bit is still a bit of a mystery, how to tick that box, like 100%. Yeah. So giving them links to live portfolios, is that not an option? So a secret URL or locking it down? Or?
Yes, well, the EPAOs really have got their own constraints because obviously being government funded and off-wall regulated, they cannot accept secret URLs. The videos as well, for example, cannot work. They have to be screenshots of the videos. It really is a bit disheartening, really, because it takes away the soul of the whole thing. But obviously, we are going to work on that this year because it's the first year, really, that we have put through endpoint assessment, through some learnings through endpoint assessment, and we are hitting those barriers and those walls now. So I guess it's the time where we're going to start trying to work with the EPAOs and telling them, well, can we do it this way, that way, but they also have their constraints.
Is there a case there for putting some sort of argument forward, though, that they need to modify their constraints and bring their constraints into the modern world?
I was going to say, what were they actually expecting? Just a load of Word documents? Or... So an actual digital portfolio is just blowing their mind and they don't know how to deal with it?
Yeah, so that, to me, that's... There's only so much that tools like Mahoodle and Mahara and anything else can do, and at some stage, the people on the receiving end have got to update what they need out of things.
How do we make them do that?
Yeah, that's a different question again, and that's probably a much bigger panel that we need for that.
Yeah, so I've just a follow-up question to that. Do you know of any tools out there like PebblePad or that do exactly what you're asking for would be my question. So,
I think people are using one file, but it is uploaded.
Yeah, there's one file in Smart Assess, and it's just basically a file, just a collection of files, and it's not a...
and the tools that they use themselves, what are they using internally?
Internally, they are using their own
I think you're doing a cart before the horse thing. So remember at the beginning when I was talking about competency frameworks and stuff, when you start with how the assessment is to be done. So you're basically going, we've got this really cool portfolio, which is great, and I love portfolios, we all do here. It's great. But if the assessment methodology is different, what you need to do, maybe not PDF, but what you need to do perhaps is to look at creating an export option, a bit like Leap 2A, something like that, that you can export out into a format that is exactly what they need, and it becomes a sort of standard. If they're going to be doing a lot of these assessments, you're not the only one probably using Mahara for this. So therefore, maybe crowdfunding the development of an export option that gives them exactly the format they want, so you keep the cool portfolio stuff. But if that isn't how they assess, then that's just not how they assess. You don't start off with content and say, this is how you assess. You have to accept that their gateway is going to be the way it is. So that's what I would suggest. So I would develop a plugin to create a format that you negotiate with them, and then maybe everyone else who deals with them and who uses Mahara crowdfund it together.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea, and I think that's the way we're going to go for these upcoming months. And it is because they also have their own constraints from Ofqual. So but thinking about developing a plugin so that they can work with our way of working, and we don't compromise on the use of the e-portfolio, really. So yeah, thank you.
Okay. Next question.
I've got one more. Sorry, it's a bit easier, I think. So, right. So our e-portfolio, we deliver it for apprenticeships at level 3, 4, and very recently degree apprenticeship. Our coaches, basically, our technical coaches, are saying the learner starts developing their e-portfolio, their showcase projects, and it was really good to see the timeline element today, and we thought, oh, that's really good. We're going to look for that plugin. Because you can see the development of the journey of the learner. The way we're working at the moment, our coaches give feedback to the learners on their developing of their pages, and this feedback sits at the bottom of the page. But as the project becomes bigger, and towards the end of 24 months of learning and showcasing, a project can be a very, very big page. Again, we are constrained by what the EPAOs are asking us. So, for example, they've said you cannot use columns. If you're using videos, they cannot be linkable. They have to be embedded in a certain way, and blah, blah, blah. So we're trying to, like you say, adapt to what they're asking us to do. But our coaches are saying, can our feedback be per block rather than at the end, so that the learner can relate to it more?
Yep, so I don't know, what version are you running?
We've just upgraded to the latest one.
So 1904, right.
Yeah.
So if you notice, the header is changed, hasn't it, on each page,
yes.
And everything's been moved to the side, and that's to make way for a new assessment layer, where assessors can then, exactly as you've just described, attach feedback to each block.
Oh,
so that is coming. I can share some links to the discussion about how it should work. But it's definitely coming because it's been needed for a long time. So what you've described is exactly what's coming.
Fab, that's brilliant. Thank you.
Ed, you're wiggling a finger at me. You can. Yeah. So some of the bloke.
Sorry. The one we use is the notes block, and I seem to be the tutors can comment on the notes block. Is that right? Yeah.
Yep. So on the notes and journals, some of them you can respond to and comment on, but I think it might be 1910 onwards. You can actually give feedback on a block, not just comment, but give feedback, attach a rubric or something to it. But I could share the links to the work in progress.
Okay. No, that'd be cool. Thank you very much. Thank you.
One more question, and then we'll have a bit from orally on communities. Anybody? Then I'll say thank you very much to our panel. Thank you, all four of you.